L-Theanine is marketed for calm, focus, and better sleep. Tonight, TrendProof checks what the research truly shows.
First, what exactly is L-Theanine? It is a non-protein amino acid found naturally in tea leaves, including green, black, white, and oolong tea. A cup of tea contains a variable amount. A supplement is a concentrated product, not simply a cup of tea in capsule form. That distinction matters because studies often test specific supplemental amounts under controlled conditions. A recent review notes that L-theanine is absorbed after oral intake and has been studied for brain and relaxation-related effects. But a plausible mechanism is not the same thing as a proven health benefit. The popular claim is calm focus. Researchers have explored whether L-theanine affects brain activity associated with relaxation and attention. Some small studies report changes in alpha wave activity, a pattern often linked with relaxed wakefulness. That is one reason the phrase calm alertness appears so often in supplement marketing. But alpha wave findings are indirect, vary across studies, and do not prove that a supplement will reduce anxiety or improve performance for everyone. The most responsible description is narrower. L-theanine may influence markers and experiences associated with relaxation in some settings. The clinical meaning is still being worked out. The strongest human signal comes from small stress studies. In one randomized, double-blind crossover trial, 30 healthy adults took 200 milligrams a day of L-theanine or placebo for 4 weeks. During the L-theanine period, several self-reported stress-related and sleep measures improved. Some sleep subscales also differed from placebo. That is a useful finding, but it is not the final word. The trial was small, used self-reported outcomes, and studied healthy adults rather than people receiving treatment for a diagnosed sleep or anxiety disorder. A fair takeaway is that L-theanine has promising early evidence for stress-related comfort and subjective sleep measures. It is not proof of a treatment for insomnia. The attention story is more specific than social media makes it sound. A randomized placebo-controlled study in adults aged 50 to 69 found improvements in selected attention and working memory task measures after L-theanine, including some acute task results. But the same study did not show a broad improvement across every memory, emotion, visual processing, or motor measure. In other words, a better score on selected laboratory tasks does not equal a proven all-purpose brain booster. Another small 4-week study found some cognitive changes, but when researchers compared the overall change with placebo, many measures did not show a clear difference. That is why a source-led report uses the words may and selected measures, not guaranteed focus.
What about combining it with caffeine? This is where many headlines become too simple. Some research suggests the combination may improve certain alertness and attention measures more than caffeine alone, but the evidence is limited and results depend on the task, the population, and the amounts studied. That is not a recommendation to mix products, stack supplements, or increase caffeine. Caffeine can affect sleep, anxiety, heart rhythm, and blood pressure in some people. The safest educational message is this: a finding about a specific study combination is not a universal recipe for better performance. Now for the finding that keeps the hype in check. In a double-blind, placebo-controlled study of 46 people with generalized anxiety disorder who were already taking antidepressant medication, adjunctive L-theanine did not outperform placebo on the primary anxiety measure. It also did not beat placebo on the primary insomnia severity measure. There were some secondary signals, including self-reported sleep satisfaction, but the main result matters. This trial did not establish L-theanine as a treatment for generalized anxiety disorder. That is exactly why wellness claims must not be allowed to blur into disease treatment claims. Safety is not the same as proof. Reviews describe L-theanine as generally well tolerated in the studies available, but that does not make every supplement appropriate for every person. The National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health notes that dietary supplements can interact with medicines, may pose risks with certain medical conditions or surgery, and often have not been tested in pregnancy, nursing, or children. It also points out that products sold online or in stores can differ from products tested in research. And in the United States, most dietary supplements are not reviewed by the FDA for safety and effectiveness before they reach the market. If you take medication, manage a health condition, are pregnant or nursing, or planning surgery, or are considering a supplement for a child, discuss it with a qualified clinician or pharmacist first. If you develop side effects after using a supplement, stop and seek medical guidance. So what is the evidence-led takeaway? L-Theanine is a tea-derived amino acid with credible early research behind relaxation, selected attention measures, and some subjective sleep outcomes. But the studies are often small, the results are not uniform, and it is not established as a treatment for anxiety, insomnia, or any other disease. If you see a product promising a cure, a guaranteed brain boost, or replacement for care, that claim is going further than the evidence. The best question is not, does it work, in the abstract? The better question is, for which outcome, in which population, compared with what, and how strong is the evidence?
One reason supplement debates become confusing is that different questions get mixed together. Does a compound enter the body? Does it change a laboratory marker? Does it change how a person feels in the short term? Does it improve a diagnosed condition? And is it safe for a particular individual alongside their medicines and medical history? Those are different questions. A single study can be useful without answering all of them. That is the difference between an interesting finding and a recommendation. Here is a practical way to read an L-Theanine headline. First, look at who was studied. Healthy adults, older adults, people with high stress, and people with a diagnosed condition are not interchangeable groups. Next, look at the comparison. Was there a placebo? Was the trial blinded? How long did it last? Then ask what was actually measured. A self-reported feeling, a laboratory attention task, a sleep questionnaire, and a medical outcome are not the same category of evidence. Finally, look for the whole result, not only the most favorable result. If a study tested several outcomes and only some differed, that limit belongs in the headline too. The tea versus supplement question needs the same care. Tea contains a naturally variable amount of L-Theanine, along with caffeine and many other compounds. A supplement may provide a higher, more standardized amount, but it also changes the context. The dose, product quality, timing, other ingredients, and a person's health situation can all matter. It is not accurate to say that drinking tea and taking a capsule are identical experiences. And it is not accurate to assume that a natural source automatically makes a concentrated product risk-free. Natural is a description of origin, not a safety conclusion. Product labels can make evidence look more settled than it is. Phrases such as supports calm, promotes focus, or helps sleep may sound modest, but the underlying evidence can range from a small exploratory study to repeated controlled trials. Those phrases also do not tell you whether the product was tested as sold. Supplement labels may not reveal the study design, the study population, or whether the research used the same formulation. A source-led approach is to treat the label as a claim that needs context, not as a summary of the science. What would stronger evidence look like? Larger trials that are independently replicated, involve diverse participants, last long enough to answer practical questions, and report both benefits and side effects clearly. For sleep or anxiety, researchers would need to compare outcomes with appropriate care and use validated measures. For attention, they would need to show effects that are consistent, meaningful outside a laboratory task, and balanced against possible downsides. Until that evidence exists, the most accurate phrase remains promising but not conclusive. And one final point. Lifestyle basics are not made irrelevant by a supplement conversation. Sleep routines, a balanced diet, physical activity, stress support, and clinician-guided care have their own evidence bases. A capsule should not become a reason to delay an evaluation for persistent anxiety, insomnia, troubling symptoms, or a medication concern. If you are looking for a treatment plan rather than general education, a qualified health professional is the right person to help tailor that decision. The TrendProof takeaway is simple. L-Theanine has a credible research story, but the story is narrower than the marketing. Respect the promising signals, respect the uncertainty, and never let a wellness claim quietly turn into a promise the evidence has not earned.
For health claims worth checking, follow TrendProof. Evidence first, hype second.